So one kind of occupation that doesn't require a college degree and pays more than $50,000 a year is the building inspector occupation. In this video, we're going to help you answer the question, should you try and become a building inspector in 2021? We're going to go over the pros and cons. We're going to go over salaries, the job market, and the latest trends. Coming up. Hey everyone, Stephen Hack here with Career Watch, where I help you with your career search. If you've been enjoying the video, hit that thumbs up to support the channel. And if you're a building inspector or trying to become one, let us know down in the comments below, if you are a building inspector, what you enjoy and what you dislike about the occupation. Building inspectors spend most of their time examining work sites. They also spend time reviewing blueprints, writing reports, and scheduling inspections. For those people that are claustrophobic, this occupation might not be for you because building inspectors can climb ladders and they can crawl through tight spaces as part of their work. But for the most part, building inspectors inspect and monitor construction sites, making sure that safety standards are met and things are up to code. As for the base salaries of building inspectors, they do pretty well. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 2019, building inspectors made on average around $64,000 per year. This was more than agricultural inspectors, fire inspectors, property appraisers and assessors, and surveyors. They were beat out by health and safety techs as far as base salary is concerned. And these are base salaries, they don't include commissions, bonuses, and other forms of compensation. And over the past 2 decades, building inspectors have seen pretty good wage growth. In 1999, the average base salary was $39,740. Pretty much there's been gains every single year, and in 2019, the government recorded the average base salary at $64,390 for building inspectors. This gives us a total wage growth over these 2 decades of about $25,000, or this comes out to about $1,173 per year of yearly wage growth. If we were to take this average yearly wage growth in 2021, the average base salary would be around $68,000 per year. And by 2029, the average base salary would rise to around $76,000 per year. Experience in geography definitely plays a role in the compensation of building inspectors. A starting salary nationally would be around $36,000 per year, whereas a building inspector that has lots of experience and probably works on a hot job market, they earn more than $98,000 per year. So geography also plays a role in the compensation of building inspectors. Certain states tend to pay more than others. In this particular map, the lighter blue states tend to pay the least and the darker blue states tend to pay the most. And as you can see, the West Coast seems to be a better place for people in this occupation. California, Alaska, and some of the other states tend to pay building inspectors more than in the South and in the Midwest. In 2019, the highest paying state was the state of California, where the average base salary was $88,860. Other high paying places, this DC is actually number 2, not really a state, but Alaska, Nevada, and Washington were also high paying states for people in this occupation. As far as what industry pays building inspectors the greatest wage, it's the construction industry. On average, it pays building inspectors around $63,000, whereas local and state government in general tends to pay building inspectors the least amount of money, with state government coming in last at around $58,000 per year. Definitely not bad for an occupation that doesn't require a higher education. In fact, according to the Occupational Information Network, 22% of building inspectors just had a high school diploma, 35% have a high school diploma plus some certifications on top of that high school diploma. There's quite a few certifications for building inspectors to make them more competitive in the marketplace. And about 35% of building inspectors, according to ONET, have an associate's degree. So college is definitely optional for this occupation. So what is the job market like for this occupation? Is it hard to get a job? Is it competitive to get a job? The first thing to keep in mind is the building inspector workforce is fairly large. In 2019, there was 110,420 employed building inspectors across the United States. And this is much higher than similar occupations such as agricultural inspectors, fire inspectors, property appraisers and assessors, and surveyors. There's a little bit more health and safety techs, but in general, this is a pretty large workforce, and that means there's going to be job opportunities probably all around the country. Sometimes with smaller occupations, there's hubs. You have to live in specific places, but building inspectors are needed pretty much everywhere. As you might imagine, the workforce of building inspectors has changed over time. They were influenced by the Great Recession, just as the rest of the construction industry was. In 1999, there was 67,000 people employed as building inspectors. This hit a high in 2007 of about 95 or 96,000 employed. This fell a little bit because of the Great Recession, and this occurred in the entire construction industry. They just weren't building homes, and there was just not a lot of development for quite a few years. In 2013, this kind of hit a low of around 87,000 jobs. But since then, mostly because of house inventory is really low right now, there's a lot of interest in building new homes. In 2019, they recorded 110,420 employed building inspectors, so the highest that it's ever been. And given the low inventory and there's such demand for real estate right now, there probably will be greater and greater need for building inspectors going into the future. The government is less optimistic. They're only anticipating about a 3,000 growth in jobs from 2019 to 2029. But just given history, just given the past 20 years, the historical trend would mean that there would be around 131,000 employed building inspectors by 2029. So another way to gauge the competitiveness of this occupation is to look at the number of job postings there are right now on Indeed.com. Indeed pulls in job postings from many different sources. It's an aggregator. So I went on Indeed and I looked for very specific keywords in the title of job postings. So I was looking for keywords like building inspector, building official, construction inspector, elevator inspector, home inspector. This gave me a total of around 2,700 job postings across the country. So comparing the total workforce of building inspectors against the number of job postings for building inspectors, there's about 40 times as many employed as there are job postings. This means that it is actually a pretty competitive occupation, maybe because the barrier to entry is a little bit lower. As far as where building inspectors work, about 35% work for local government, about 15% work in engineering services. Only 7%, surprisingly, work in the construction industry, which, based off the previous image I showed you, is the highest paying work environment for building inspectors. And interestingly, about 7% are self-employed. So when choosing an occupation, it's really important to choose an occupation that you're interested in. And one way to help you figure out which occupation you might be interested in is to take a RIASEC assessment and figure out your Holland codes. Basically, this kind of assessment, you answer a bunch of questions about your interests, and then it spits out scores for 6 different themes. With building inspectors that have taken a RIASEC assessment and figured out their Holland codes, no surprise, they score really high in the realistic theme. You really have to enjoy working with your hands, being outdoors, building and repairing things to really enjoy this occupation. And they also score high in the conventional theme. And people that score high in the conventional theme, they tend to love order. They love where everything has a place. They tend to hate clutter. So if you take a RIASEC assessment and you figure out your Holland codes and you score high in these 2 themes, you might be very interested in this kind of work and working in this kind of occupation. So as you can see, there are pros and cons becoming a building inspector in 2021. They do make pretty good money, especially compared to similar occupations. It doesn't require higher education. You don't have to go to college and spend tens of thousands of dollars or sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the school, for a degree and then get a job. You can immediately start working pretty much at the age of 18 or 19, or, if you're changing careers, you can pretty easily enter this occupation. But I do hear that you do need a lot of certifications to be competitive in the marketplace. The job market is competitive, especially when you look at the number of job postings there are right now. But one of the weaknesses of that is it could be seasonal. Maybe more building inspectors are hired by construction firms in the summer. And right now at the filming of this video, it is mid-March. If you enjoyed this video, definitely check out my construction manager video. This could also be an occupation that people could aim for. It's extremely lucrative, and it's one of my more popular videos. Definitely check out that video or some of my other construction related videos. Are you a building inspector? Let us know in the comments below what you enjoy and what you dislike about this occupation. Thanks so much for watching.